Cheers! Good evening, Canadian wine lovers. Today we're hosting Lyndsay O'Rourke from Tightrope Winery on the Naramata Bench. So stay tuned. That's going to be a good one. Cheers! Happy Wine Wednesday! Mira Boucher, Canadian wine lovers, Carl's Wine Club members, Tightrope Winery members and followers, everyone across the country. It is Wednesday, it's 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Welcome to another fantastic wine show here with Carl and Mira. I am absolutely thrilled. Are you excited for today?
Oh, absolutely. We've tasted through these wines a few times in the past. And like with many amazing small producers in BC, it's sometimes hard to get a hold of their wine. So we're just so excited to have access to them this week. Many of them are super small production and really super delicious.
And yeah, you know what? There's something like unique when we feature a winery from the Naramata Bench. I mean, like they are 100% bench fruit, estate fruit. There's such a great, there's such a great story behind that winery about like who they are, right? Lyndsay and Graham and the family life. And there you go now, like award-winning small winery on the bench, and just like producing some fantastically detailed and expressive wines that every time that I taste through the lineup, I feel like the definition of flavor and characteristic of the varietals are so popping. So yeah, it's pretty cool, and we're gonna have the chance to chat with Lyndsay O'Rourke, the winemaker owner of the winery, in a couple minute time. So I am absolutely thrilled. It's such a great week here at the office.
Totally. And I should mention, I mean, we were there last June tasting through some of the wines, and check this out. So it's called Tightrope, right? The winery is called Tightrope, and I like it because they're trying to play on the idea that life is all about balance, wine is all about balance, but sometimes it feels like you're walking on a tightrope because you have to be so precise. But also where they're located on the bench, if you ever go there in person, you have to see, because this is the view. So it's almost like they're way up high, like on a tightrope.
I love it. I love it. This is so cool. I mean, like we get used to it, right? But it's nice because when we travel across the country and we see other wine region, I mean, it's beautiful everywhere. There's something romantic and sexy about a region, a beautiful hill with vineyards and everything. But this one around the Naramata Bench is just so unique and beautiful. I mean, it's just amazing. So yeah, sure. Now every time you go to Tightrope, and there's an excitement of knowing that you taste the wines, that's for sure, but also the view and the feel of being like somewhere unique and special. That is for sure. Good evening, Daryl Hickey. Hope you're doing well, Daryl, and having a great evening down in Ontario. Hey, everyone who's tuning in, please let us know what is in your glass tonight. Mira and I are tasting again the lineup of Tightrope. We have the Slackline Rosé. We also have the Semillon 2022 Thomas Vineyard. We have the Tiptoe White Blend, and also the absolutely world class 93 points Fleet Road Vineyard Merlot. So I don't have enough of that Merlot. Every time that I get a sip of it, there's
I'm gonna
something
skip right
new.
to Merlot.
Oh man, that is just fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
This is our Enovino wine of the week, and tune in for our video. Is going to come out tomorrow. But yes, this is an absolutely fantastic wine. And guess what? Like more and more, I am convinced that the bench produce some of the best Merlot in the country. I mean, we're known for our Merlot. We're known like BC, that's the most planted red grape. And like the south of the Okanagan is known for the big and bold Merlot. And we always talk about the Soyuz and Oliver, the Golden Miles and all of that. But I think it's a little known secret that the Naramata Bench produce some absolutely wonderful Merlot. And I don't know if you remember, we featured earlier this year Foreshadow. And I think there was the 2019 vintage for Foreshadow that I really, really, really love. That Merlot is one of my favorite Merlot of the year. And I've learned through the grapevines that our guest tonight made that Merlot.
No
So
way.
I am not joking. I'm not joking.
We have to ask you about that. That's fun. So yeah, we got to meet. The winery was founded by Lyndsay and Graham O'Rourke. We got to meet Graham, and personally, I don't think I've ever met Lyndsay, so I'm excited. So this was Graham.
So
All good.
It's been wild for the rest, because after a while, yeast start flying around the winery.
So that was Graham talking something about yeast and fermentation and whatnot. We were in the.
I never know which kind of conversation we can have when we're starting to geek out and taste some amazing wine. So yeah.
There you go. But yeah, we do have Lyndsay herself in the green room right now. Should we bring her on, Carl? Yeah, so this is Tightrope winemaker and co-founder Lyndsay O'Rourke. Lyndsay.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us.
Lyndsay, good evening.
Sorry, I look really short here. I have to. There we go. That's better. How are you guys?
Oh man, I'm doing fantastic with 4 glasses of Tightrope wine right in front of me, and a full range of Canadian wine lovers listening to us. This is a great evening to talk wine, Lyndsay. It's so great to connect. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us.
Oh, I'm more than happy to. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for your kind words about Naramata Merlot. You're right. I think it is a bit of a secret, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, like when I go down in Ontario, we travel through the wine country, and people always said, "Oh, you guys produce so many great Merlot and the Golden Mile." Everyone talks about the south of the Okanagan. Not saying that they're not producing great Merlot, but I think that it's so the bench Merlot is so underrated.
Yeah, I think the bench is kind of a Goldilocks area. We can make some really beautiful, elegant wines that you can't make in the warmer areas, but you still get really ripe, luscious fruit with that nice elegance in them. So yeah,
Absolutely. Lyndsay, let's backtrack, okay? Because I don't want to skip like 20 years ahead, because there's so much to talk with you. And Mira promised to keep me on track tonight. I have to go step by step, and let's be organized tonight. Mira, where should we
blame me for the organization? I mean, it's thank you.
Where should we start?
Mira, we can do this.
So let's I want to know, because you and Graham have founded the winery in 2012, I believe, but it started much before that. So I think you guys planted the vineyard 2007. I want to know, when I am always intrigued, where did you get the winemaking bugs? When and where did you go study your winemaking?
Yeah, so the winemaking bug, I guess that came. Graham and I actually met in Whistler. We were both there, kind of doing the ski bum thing. I'd gone there for a year to snowboard and ended up there for almost 10 years, but that's another story. But it was there that, I don't know if you've been to Whistler or are familiar, but it's a small town. It's a great ski town, but they also have an amazing variety of fine dining restaurants. that focus on the whole food and wine culture. And that's kind of where I got into that for sure. And Graham as well. And then after our first son, Ethan, was born, the ski bum lifestyle was not so appealing to me anymore. And I decided I kind of needed a real job. And it was my mother actually that had suggested that I go to school for winemaking. I'd done science in the past, science and biology. And so that wasn't daunting to me at all. I found that really interesting. And we packed up everything and moved to the Okanagan. We were here for about a year and a half, and then we ended up going to New Zealand, where I went to school and got a Bachelor of Viticulture and Enology from Lincoln University in Christchurch. So that's where I learned to make wine, grow grapes and make wine. And Graham did a postgraduate diploma there as well. So yeah, that's where we learned all our skills for growing grapes.
That's really neat. And you know what? It's a small world. So we were chatting with one of our members, Vicky. Daryl knows Vicky. He's on tonight. I don't know if Vicky's on tonight, but she said, "Oh, that Tightrope, that's Graham's winery." And Graham apparently is a Sarnia boy from.
That's right. Yeah.
So I think it's like Vicky's cousin is good friends with Graham or something like that. So
yeah. That's funny how our national wine club absolutely relate everyone that came from one part of another. But I want to get back to New Zealand, because many of our talent here, local talent, goes to New Zealand studying enology, viticulture. And so, Lyndsay, so after studying there and come back here, how can you tag both wine region? I mean, there's definitely some similarities in between the two regions. Definitely some drastic difference as well. So, but what connects the two regions in terms of similarity?
So it's interesting. Like they call it a cool climate viticulture school, which you would think would apply to Canada, but really the Okanagan, we have those cool temperatures in the winter, but through the summer we're actually quite hot. Like we compare it to warmer regions. So. That kind of is a big difference, and they don't have to deal with the amount of cold that we get here in the winter, viticulture wise either. But the similarities I would say is that we tend to make those really nice fruit driven wines with a nice acid backbone that you get from the cooler climates. So that's definitely the similarity you'd get between BC and New Zealand. And I think it definitely influences my style to this day, having learned to make wine in New Zealand. But
well, I think true that BC, I think, is a very natural choice with the colder night, right? Like, I mean, this is what makes BC, and especially in this climate change era where now the warmer regions are fighting to keep acidity in their wines. We're here and like we're thriving with acidity, and I think that's what putting us on the world map at the moment.
Yeah, it definitely. It does help if you can take advantage of that cool climateness that we have here, as far as the diurnal temperature changes in the day, and the shorter seasons, so we have that nice acidity in the wines for sure.
Definitely. So getting back home and finding a spot on the bench. And like, to me, I'm intrigued about when you got the piece of land, what motivates you to plant the type of grape that the varietals that you guys planted? Was it something that you've done with the knowledge, knowing that the Semillon, the Merlot, or the grapes that you guys were planting in 2007 was a sure thing that it's going to work long run?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Our property, we have 3 vineyards now on the Naramata Bench, but the original one is the Fleet Road vineyard where the winery is and our house is. And it's quite undulating terrain. It's not just a flat sort of, a piece of land that with no, flat and just sloped or what have you. But there's a lot of different, we have west facing slopes, we have east facing, and then we've got southwest and some flat areas and some north facing. So all of the varieties were planted with that in mind. So for instance, our Pinot Gris is planted on an east facing slope, which is the first to lose the sun at the end of the day. So that will it stops too much sugar from accumulating. And then we have a chance to ripen all the other like flavors and phenolics without the sugar going through the roof. Our Pinot Noir is on a north facing slope and also goes in sort of a lower the coolest spot in the vineyard is where the Pinot Noir is planted. And the Pinot thrives better in the cooler temperatures. I'm sure a lot of wine lovers know that. Pinot doesn't necessarily do well in the blazing heat, and they really like that diurnal change. And then we've got some Viognier, which is in sort of a southwest facing area next to a cliff, so it gets really a lot of that sun interception, and then also the heat radiates off the cliff as well. So the Viognier sort of loves that heat. I think we're kind of at the northern edge of where you can ripen Viognier well. So
yeah, really close of where after that it's a no-go, right? Like they yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so we just strategically planted all these different varieties in different spots. Knowing what kind of, how much sun they needed, how much heat they needed, and just to come out with the best wine we could make. So
that's and now we're moving into red. And when you're looking at the like we just mentioned, like the Merlot and the Syrah, so you have the Fleet Road vineyard, but you also have the Thomas. I believe the Thomas Vineyard. So where is the Thomas Vineyard compared to where is the Fleet Road Vineyard? Are you far apart? Is it at the other side of the bench? Is it above the road, below the road?
So it's below the road. So Fleet Road is below the road, and we're Fleet Road is probably, if your listeners know, we're about halfway between the town of Penticton and the village of Naramata. So if you know the geography at all, that's where the Fleet Road Vineyard is. And then we have the Thomas Vineyard, which is on Corbishley Avenue, and it is just on the north side of Munson Mountain. So when you come into Penticton, there's the big Penticton sign on the mountain there. That's Munson Mountain.
Near where they have that big new dinosaur?
Yes. Exactly, yeah. We're on the opposite side of the mountain from there.
$500,000 dinosaur that I think it's a bed and breakfast that's put in there.
The big T-Rex that's
yeah, that big new. It's another one thing will make the news this summer. So outside of a road closure, or
and I think it's important. I'm the newer one to wine here, Lyndsay. I mean, Carl's been in wine for like 30 years, but I started drinking wine in the pandemic when I finally realized, being with my husband every day, what he actually does. I'm like, oh, you just sit and taste wine all day. Oh, I can do this.
Yeah.
And so below the road and above the road, can someone explain that to me? Because I think as locals, we've come to understand that there's a big difference in terms of the soils, but what's the difference?
Yeah,
that's a great point, Mira. That's a great point. We have lots of listeners from out east, so thank you for bringing that.
Yeah, so the quick lesson here and how that works is in Naramata, there's a road. The Naramata Road runs from Penticton to the village of Naramata and beyond, really, to the end of the road. And the soil above the road on the east side is much different than the soil on the west side. And the reason for that is the Naramata Bench is actually an old lake bed. So the Okanagan Lake actually used to come up to where the bench is now. And so below the road, so where the road runs is probably the natural shore of where the lake originally was. So below the road is where you get a lot of the heavy silt. It's not clay, but heavy silt soils where all the sediment from the lake would have settled. And then on the other side of the road, you get the much lighter soils that have more sand and, a bit of gravel and rocks in it. So the soils are really quite different, and you get quite different wines from either side of the road.
That's pretty fascinating. I don't know how common that is in wine regions to have something like that, but it's pretty neat. Phenomenal.
Yeah. It is very unique to us and something we should be letting people know about as well.
Yeah, because it's very often, now we find ourselves asking, oh, where is that vineyard if it's on the Naramata Bench, below the road or above the road, just because it gives us an idea of possibly a little bit about what that wine might be like. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so now with the vineyard, like how you build the vineyard and all that. So Thomas Vineyard, that's where is it where you focus more on your reds, or there's nothing about the red is on the vineyard, the white is on the other. Can you explain to me? Because I know like there's a Syrah as well. There's a Syrah planted, and there's not a ton of Syrah on the bench, but I would say it fares so well, just like the Merlot. It's a little unknown gem that we realize that the absolute the finesse and the complexity of the bench Syrah compared to what we get in the south. So where about the Syrah is planted for you guys?
So the Syrah is at the Thomas Vineyard. We didn't actually plant that vineyard. That one we purchased in 2018, I believe.
Okay, I'll just fairly
2019. So it was planted before, but we've been buying the grapes from there since 2016. And originally they had Cab Sauv on that site where the Syrah is now. And we said, no, this isn't a good site for Cab Sauv. There's very few places on the bench that are good for Cab Sauv. So we pulled that out and put the Syrah in. We also have a Syrah grower on Upper Bench Road. You were talking about Four Shadows earlier. Yeah. He's the next door neighbor to him. His name is Dr. David Paisley, and he has a Syrah vineyard there that we've been buying Syrah since 2016, I believe. And it's a fantastic Syrah site. It's very steep, west facing, so it gets tons of sunlight interception there, and the soils are quite light. There's quite lighter, more sandy, gravelly soils up there. So it's a beautiful Syrah site. So we've been sourcing Syrah from those two spots, and I found that they complement each other quite well. The Paisley site can be quite warm, so the Syrah can be quite big and very structured, whereas the Syrah from the Thomas site, which is a little bit cooler, has more of the more elegant sort of fruit and peppery notes, and So
I was just about to ask a little bit more about your partner in crime, and here we go. He's texting here. He's putting notes in the comments. It's like, no, 2014. So
we go. Okay, there we go.
So Lyndsay, you're a winemaker like with multiple award-winning wines. I remember like but before, like when you were with Ruby Blues, you got like some Lieutenant Governor Award, Wine of the Year, and all of these, like the full-on spectrum of awards. Your partner in crime, Graham. So Graham is the viticulturist. He's the guy who takes care of the vineyard. He's the guy who makes sure to deliver the top-notch grape to you every year.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So what's his back? I think he has a pretty interesting background too. Before you guys started, right?
Well, I'm scared to say now because he might just start correcting me while they were wrong.
You know what, Mira? Can you block Graham, please? Just block him. We're busy here.
No, because I have a question to him about the Syrah later. So.
Okay, there you go. So Graham, like I said, we met in Whistler, and he lived in Whistler just as long as I did, and he was skiing, mountain biking. He bartended a lot, and then he got into fish guiding before we left. So that was another passion of his, is fly fishing. But he sort of came on this journey with me because I was leaving, and he decided he should come with me. And he wasn't necessarily going to get into the wine thing, but he took the viticulture course, introductory course at the college, and then started pruning at Greta Ranch when Cedar Creek still owned it, and he just sort of fell in love with the whole grape growing side. So it just continued on from there. So luckily we kind of had that synergy and that commonality. Otherwise, I'm not sure how this whole venture may have gone. But
and I think with his previous position before, he had a really good understanding of the whole spectrum of the valley. Good understanding. It's not just site specific Naramata Bench. Graham do understand the whole viticulture across the valley. So a big plus for what you guys do, definitely.
Yeah, that's right. When we got back from New Zealand, he got hired by Mission Hill as a viticulturist. So he took care of vineyards all the way from, Kelowna south to Osoyoos. He really had a good grasp on the different growing areas and also growing different quality tiers as well, right? They would grow everything from, 5
table
vineyards
wine.
all the way to Oculus, right? So he would
Yeah.
got experience doing all that stuff. So
That's amazing. So the two together now, like, so now the winery opened in 2012, and since then you guys are flying. I mean, like, what you guys are doing is absolutely fantastic. There's one thing that I would like to talk before I pass it on to you, Mira. I know you have a few questions. I want to talk a little bit about the sustainability program that you guys have put together. I mean, this is a hot topic. This is a big topic across the country. Where some people will talk about organic, other people will talk about natural wine, but the sustainability program, this is something, to me, that's the reality. That's the more realistic, a global approach of winemaking. So tell me a little bit more what pushes you guys, what pushed you to get there and to put together and being the first of being sustainably accredited.
yeah, so we were the first with this new program, the Sustainable Wine Growing BC. It's a program that Graham actually worked on for over 10 years. He was on the board trying to come up with the the whole program and the criteria and all this stuff. And it's really about obviously sustainability in the vineyard and minimizing your inputs and doing things, everything you need to be doing and doing it properly and with the minimum amount of either sprays or tractor work or what have you. And then that extends onto the winery as well. And it encompasses everything. It's from, it's a thing, it's about good practices as far as even like with your HR and, health and safety but also, your water use and trying to decrease your inputs and all this thing. And it's a great program because it's all about, and continual improvement over time. So there's a minimum standard that you have to meet, and then over time you're expected to improve on things as well. So it's not just meeting a minimum standard and you're done. It's all about improving your sustainability over time. And so it's a flexible program, and it's just the way that everything's going, and it's certified, right? So you're certified by trained professionals, and it's not greenwashing, right? You can say to people, no, I'm not just saying I'm sustainable. I've actually had someone come and go through my records and look at everything that we're doing, and we can assure them that it's real, right? Because there is a lot of greenwashing out there, and it's frustrating I have to say.
Yeah, no, and on the practical side, I want to know, can you give me an example? What does it change for you as a winemaker? Let's say when the grapes are coming in, I mean, like, is this like some aspect of that to change how you think about winemaking, or you're just used to that and it's just a natural way to operate for you?
How would it change? I guess, I've worked at wineries where it's very important that there's not a weed under the vines, or, the fruit comes in completely spotless or what have you. Whereas us, it's not Bouchard Gardens our vineyard, like we do a lot of manual weed reduction, which means it's not Bouchard Gardens out there, but it doesn't affect the quality of your grapes, right? You don't have to look like Bouchard Gardens to grow really good grapes. So you kind of let those things go. And then as far as in the winery, I'll look at ways of, can I change how we clean tanks so that I use less water? How can I get lighter bottles so my shipping, CO2 is less, just things like that. So you're constantly thinking about ways that you can decrease your inputs. So.
That's a very, very good point. Mira, I know you wanted to get into the 2023 growing season, who for lots of wineries in British Columbia were a very difficult, big crop reduction. And from we're learning, like the bench was not as affected as the other sub-region. So Mira, up to you here.
Well, mine was just a selfish question, and that is, I like your Syrah a lot, and so I was a little bit worried about it, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. So I'm just curious, what's the status of your 2023? What can we expect from that vintage from Tightrope? And
so
we're gonna have Syrah,
right? We have Syrah. We were very, I don't want to say lucky, because maybe it's well, maybe it's luck, but where our vineyards are, we're relatively close to the lake. They have good air drainage, things like that. And so we didn't get a lot of damage. The Syrah, there was some primary bud damage, but we maybe lost 10% of, all the buds. So yeah, there was some Syrah. Our Dr. Paisley didn't get a lot this year, unfortunately, because he had a bear in his vineyard. So
hungry bear.
Yeah. So,
I guess that can happen any year.
That can happen any year.
That's an expensive snack.
Oh yeah, and yeah. What are you gonna do, right? Yeah, that's
shoot the bear.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah. It is frustrating though as a winemaker, and you go out there and you see there'll still be rakuses on the vines, but they're completely cleaned off. So the bear just puts his mouth on and just pulls, and they're gone. So,
oh no.
Yeah.
Darn it.
Yeah.
Darn it. So you got your answer. So you guys, in general from 2023, because road closure, forest fire, the whole 9 yard, obviously the frost and the late. I think what we miss in the whole equation, it's not only the frost. I think it was the very late harvest and the lack of settling, the vines didn't have time to settle before the cold. Is it a fact, or is just?
I think it depended again on a lot of this is variety driven, depending on varieties.
Okay.
But yeah, we have Viognier over at the Thomas Vineyard, and it was still quite green when the frosts sort of came at the very beginning of November there, and we did notice more bud die off at the ends of those canes where the leaves were still green. So that was a partial factor, I think. And like I said, it's very varietal specific. So
yeah, because essentially what you had was a bumper crop in 2022. The vines were all excited and energized, and lots of fluid going through the vines, right? And then what you're saying is if they're still green, that means they haven't gone into their dormancy.
Yeah, if the canes haven't fully kind of lignified or gone brown yet, they're still susceptible to frost. So
they're very susceptible to that early frost. Last November. This November has been quite nice, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. But it was a very early, very fast harvest. So we were done probably the first week in October, which is the earliest I think have ever been finished.
I've done our BC harvest report maybe 5 weeks ago, and I'm doing the Ontario harvest report. I stuck in with our friend Brian. Okay.
Rhiannon's just asking about non-Facebook. Yes, I'm going to post the link for YouTube, and also if you just go on YouTube and you look up Carl's Wine Club, it's streaming on YouTube as well.
Oh, thank you, Mira. So I was talking with Brian Schmidt at Vineland Estate this week, and he just wrapped up his harvest. So the guys have probably 5 weeks difference in between the two regions this year. It's crazy the difference.
Yeah.
Is it one of your record harvest in terms of how early you guys have harvested this year?
It's comparable to 2015.
Okay.
It's also an early harvest, but I think this one was earlier by maybe 5 days or something like that. I know we were done picking by Thanksgiving in 2015, and this year we were done October 5th, I think was our last pick. So
just before we dig into the lineup of wine, because I want to touch base a little bit on some of the key wines we have here for our members. But just to inform our listener, when you go to harvest, what's the kind of order that you go through? What's the first grape varietals was ready to pick first in a normal year? You start to go with Chardonnay first or Pinot Gris first. What's your natural order?
Yeah, well, Gewürztraminer actually. We have Gewürztraminer, so that's usually almost always the first one.
Yeah, right.
And then Chardonnay, Pinot Gris, or Pinot Gris Chardonnay, depending on the year.
Yeah.
And then Sauv Blanc will jump in there too. Sauv Blanc Semillon.
Your late ripener are the Viognier, I believe, and obviously your reds, but
yeah, the Viognier would be the last white to come in, and then Riesling is also usually a little bit later as well. And then for reds, our latest ripening is usually almost always Cabernet Franc and the Barbera as well. They usually come in kind of around the same time.
well, that's another one we're going to talk, because you're going to release that bad boy on Friday, I believe. So
the single varietal.
I know. I've been told to wait, so I'm waiting until the release date, and I'm going to go live and save that one. I am pretty excited about that.
So a single varietal Barbera, that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, so we when we were in New Zealand, we did a tour with the school. We did a tour of the North Island, and we went to a winery called Vinalto. I'm not even sure if it exists anymore, but the owner specialized in Italian grapes, and he had this Merlot Barbera blend, and Graham especially kind of fell in love with it. So when we got home and we're thinking about planting our new vineyard, we were like, oh, do you think we can get away with Barbera and Naramata? And so let's give it a try. So yeah, we planted only about 150 plants just to see. And it's quite funny because we ended up using it both in our rosé and then also in our red blend called Vertigo, which is Merlot, Barbera, and Cabernet Franc. And both of those kind of actually got a bit of a following in the winery. So we actually planted more. So we have about 1/3 of an acre of Barbera now. And I always said I didn't think I would ever do a single varietal because not sure if your listeners know, but Barbera is quite an acidic red grape.
Absolutely.
So that's can be hard to get the acid down, but it makes a lovely blender. It blends with sort of red varieties that tend to lose their acid a bit. So, but 2021 came along with the heat dome and everything, and that was when that was the Barbera's year, was the 2021. So I have my fingers crossed actually for 23. So we'll see. Maybe we'll do a single varietal to 23 as well.
Just for you to know, because Graham is a Sarnia boy, so in the Lake Erie North Shore appellation in Ontario, there's a winery called Mouchedre. So Mouchedre Vineyards has Barbera planted, and they do Barbera Cabernet blend, and they also have Nebbiolo as well planted. They did their first harvest in 2016 of their Nebbiolo. So we might, you know what? I may have.
What are they like? Are they?
Yeah, and they're a lovely Italian family.
Yeah, did you try the Barbera, Carl?
We still have a bottle here. Maybe, Lyndsay, I can bring the bottle over to the winery. Maybe we can crack that open together and see what they're doing over there.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that would be interesting.
That would be fun. Okay, let's get to our lineup quickly. I just want to get our people excited here because we have a fantastic lineup of wine. And first, I want to talk a little bit about the slack line. I mean, this is a line that you guys offer at a little bit more affordable price, I would say. So we have two wine on the slack line. We have the rosé and the Viognier, both. So is there something that, like, what's the thought process between your regular single vineyard and the slack line?
So really the slack line was sort of more developed because it was more of when we did one-off kind of things. Like every year we try to do something kind of fun or something kind of different that we haven't before. We'll usually call it the slack line. So for instance, the rosé that you're tasting today is a rosé made from Cabernet Franc, and it was from a vineyard just across the road from us that we were able to get the fruit for just in 2022, and we'll never get it again. So we just sort of did a one-off small lot rosé with that one, and sort of the same with the Viognier as well. And we've also done a Frizzante one as well, and we haven't done that again since. So it's kind of just a a way to distinguish it from our regular lineup, and just offer it as the slack line. So
and quickly on these two wines on the slack line, I think that that rosé, a big and bold, a little bit higher in alcohol. This is cream holiday dinner to me. With that 14% alcohol, like bring the turkey on, bring the stuffing, and that is the great pairing for absolutely for holiday dinner. No doubt about that.
Yeah, that wine is developed really nicely in bottle. Since we bottled it, it's become sort of almost very round in the mouth and almost viscous. And it's got those lovely fruit and herbal notes in there. Yeah, it's
definitely the texture, right? Like round, a little bolder, and that can stand up on to any dish on the table. I really like that. And let's get to the Viognier, because there's something unique with that Viognier. And when the bottle is open a couple of days, it's even like it pops a little bit more. It's the 10% of Muscat blended with the 90% Viognier. It gives a super personality to that wine.
Yeah, it's a lovely, it's got a lovely crisp acidity to it, and that really nice, lovely floral aromatics. That little bit of Muscat just kind of elevates the nose a little bit, and just
the pop, like a Victoria pop.
Yeah. So it's a wine I actually really enjoy drinking, and it's a really good food wine because it's got that lovely acidity that you could pair with lots of things. So it's And
what I like is because there's two styles of Viognier to me, right? That's Rhone style Viognier, bigger, like almost oily texture, like something like you feel like it's a peach and apricot jam. This is the opposite of that. This is truly a cold climate Viognier. It's more on citrus. And like we just mentioned, right? The Muscat just bring the floral to the next level. Really, really interesting. I like the acid. I like the level of acidity with that wine.
Yeah, no, I really enjoy drinking that wine. It's because of that lovely acidity and the crispness to it.
Before we jump on the single vineyards, let's talk about the Tiptoe, because now this darn thing is a tank. This is the first wine that I opened, and now it's shining. Like 5 days later, the Gewürztraminer just like dancing like no one business. Like it's a blend of like Gewürztraminer. There's Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, Pinot Gris. But this wine is round, it's festive. It's nothing too intellectual, but geez, it's just fun, friendly, and fun. Like I mean, like this is really, really good.
Yeah, so you hit thank you. That's exactly what we're trying to do with that wine. It's supposed to be very aromatic and fruity, easy drinking. A lot of people don't like Gewürztraminer because they find it overwhelming. Like there's too much floral, too much spice. So when you blend it with these other varieties, you still get those lovely Gewürztraminer notes in there, but it's not overwhelming. It's a wine that you can, drink half a bottle and, not be sick of it. And it's mostly, it's a wine that we mostly sell in the wine shop just because it's difficult to explain to people. You almost have to taste it, But yeah, you're right. It's meant to be a fun, fruity, aromatic, in your face kind of wine. So.
Yeah, I really, really enjoy that. And let's, I don't want to forget the Semillon, because to me, it's a rock star white of that pack. I fell in love with the flavor definition. It's the edges are so defined. The acidity level is just like sky high, but well balanced. Sorry, Graham was just commenting the porch pounder. Yeah, absolutely. And that Semillon, the 2022 vintage, I think, and to me, after tasting like the whites from 2022, it's one of the characteristics. The whites are so bright and shiny. So that 22 Semillon absolutely reflect the vintage, but also reflect the varietal. So 92 points, Carl's Wine Club. This wine was an absolute rock star. Tell me more.
So the Semillon, this is the first, well, actually, that's not true. This is the first year we've released a single varietal Semillon. We have a vineyard that has both Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon, and we do a blend of the two. But this year we ended up, once the blend was finished, we had some extra Semillon left, and we decided just to bottle it as the single varietal. And the Semillon's a wine I'm really starting to come around to appreciating more, I guess, both as a winemaker and just as a wine drinker. Yeah, it's, I don't know, like you said, it's got that nice acidity. It's got the sort of bright flavors in there. Some people, I don't know, Semillon is just it's a good food wine as well. It's got a bit of the herbaceousness in there. Yeah.
Yeah, and in the when it's time for winemaking with the Semillon, did you just let the fruit shine? Did you play with it a bit in terms of barrel? It's stainless steel fermentation, I believe. When I taste that, like there's no.
Very simply made, just whole cluster press, stainless steel fermented, cool temperatures. Very simply made. Not a lot of intervention at all in that wine.
Yeah, direct to the point. It's filled with energy. It's very zippy but energetic, right? So I like that style a lot.
Try the 23.
There you go. You know what? I'm a short drive away, and I'm a short drive away.
Yeah. I'll let you know.
And,
that's right.
So 23, what did you do? Did you do a little bit of barrel with the 23, or you just kept going the same?
Yeah, no, I was happy. I was happy with the way the 22 turned out. So yeah, it's again very simply made. I think just with the warmer season, it got that little bit riper. So it's a little bit rounder in the mouth, maybe, but with
more orchard than citrus in terms of flavor profile.
Good combo of the two, I think. I don't think it goes too far into the orchard, but it's just got sort of a bigger, rounder, sort of softer mouth feel, I guess is the way I would describe it.
There you go. There you go. Let's move on to the red, because I definitely enjoyed a few of them already. Let's get back to our Pinot Noir marathon in August.
Right, yeah.
I tasted 53 different Pinot Noir was something like that. Let's keep it like around 50.
I know it was a lot. Definitely a lot.
And the Fleet Road Pinot Noir from you was my top rated BC Pinot Noir. So at 92 plus points, I really liked the profile of that wine. You make two. So you make the Rubus and you make the Fleet Road. If you have to explain a little bit the difference in between, can you help me here?
Sure, yeah. So the two single vineyard Pinot Noirs, and the Fleet Road is from our Fleet Road vineyard where the winery is. And this one is on the north-facing slope I was telling you about, and kind of a cool part of the vineyard. And it was planted in 2007, and it's a mix of clones and rootstocks, and they all get sort of picked together, and the wine is made together, and it's all wild ferment. And then the Rubus comes from the Rubus family vineyard, which is just north of us. They're also on the downside of the lake side of the road.
Below the road?
Below the road, yeah. And Graham can correct me if I'm wrong, because he helped plant this vineyard, but I think it's a combination of 666 and 777. And it's interesting how different the wines come out. Like the Fleet Road is sort of a bigger, darker fruit, more of a broody Pinot Noir, whereas the Rubus is more of the red fruit, sort of red cherry, raspberry sort of flavors, and much sort of lighter in texture. So they're both really lovely Pinots. They're just very different, but they're made almost exactly the same. Both wild.
I was Côte de Nuit versus Oregon, like that far apart. Like the Fleet Road was more like the Côte de Nuit, a little bit more like forest floor, a little bit more Burgundian style, and that the Rubus was totally Oregon style. I know we try to stay away to go through international comp too much, but they were that far apart in terms of stylistically, completely different. And you say that you, in the winemaking side, you make them pretty much the same way?
Yeah, both wild ferment, both French barrels, maybe 30% new, mostly neutral oak, about 10 months in barrel. So it really just comes down to the difference in site is what it is. You know, maybe a little bit of varieties, but and the Rubus site, interestingly, is really warm. So compared to Fleet Roads. So you'd almost think it would be the opposite, the way the wines would taste. But
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So yeah, so one of our highest rated wine, like the Fleet Road Pinot Noir, 92 plus. I was a big fan. Also now we have that we tasted in our Cabernet Franc marathon. That again, we have over 50 Cabernet Franc. Yours was really stand out in terms of the. It's from the Thomas Vineyard, very well layered. I found stylistically that most of the Naramata Bench Cabernet Franc was a little bit more similar, definitely very, very different than the one from the south. A little tighter, a little bit more rustic, and but very well layered. So your winemaking style, when you look for the in terms of the bigger red, it's fairly house. You have a house style. I'm looking at 12 months, 50%, 12 months in barrel, 50% new oak.
Yeah, about that. Yeah,
about that.
Yeah, depending a bit on the year, but yeah, 12 months in barrel, and everything is we ferment all our reds in open top 1 ton fermenters, so it's very small ferments. Everything's hand punched down, and they get a lot of sort of oxygen during ferment, and I think that makes the wine sort of approachable earlier, and also helps them age quite well because they've already sort of had that oxygen sort of bound in there. So 12 months seems to be long enough. I do like to bottle age my wines for hopefully maybe a year before we release them.
It's getting a little tricky when you make 150 to 175 cases, right? I mean, you run out pretty quick. So next to the one.
Well, we do have a mortgage to pay, so sometimes
that's the reality of the business.
Yeah, sometimes you don't always get to do what you want.
Or sometimes the accountant lead the operation.
Yeah.
So we also have the Syrah. So the 2020 vintage Syrah from the. So I think you're mentioning is from couple different source. You have from Dr. Paisley source, and also from. Do you have any Syrah planted? Yes.
Thomas Vineyard as well.
On the Thomas, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm interested in just for the closure before we talk of the Merlot, it's that the three big reds are from the 2020 vintage. So 2020 vintage, a very beautiful vintage, balance, not too hot, not too cold. Tell me a little bit more.
So it was sort of I feel like it was the sort of most normal vintage we've had in a few years. I don't think it started out very well, but we had a really nice fall. So we probably started picking, I think mid to end of September, and we're finished by the sort of end of October. So it was just sort of a really nice sort of average year, which actually is kind of nice, to be honest. We've had so many crazy vintages the last few years. So it was a lovely year for growing grapes. It might have started out slow, but with a really nice fall, you get those crucial last 5-6 weeks of the year are nice and warm and sunny, and that's when you get the really nice ripening, especially with the cooler nights. It really helps keep the acidity, and I think that shows through in the 20s. That has the nice sort of acidic backbone to all the reds. So
do you do co-fermenting Syrah Viognier?
I don't. Depends what you call cool. I try to keep them around 25 degrees.
No, co-ferment.
Oh, co-ferment. Yes, co-ferment. I do. Yeah. So
you do?
Syrah, it depends on the year, but it's usually 4 to 6% Viognier. So so classic
French style. And just to answer, because I get that question all the time, what is the purpose to co-ferment Viognier? And then when I tell people, it gives colors to the wine, and people are like, what?
Well, it's sort of, so it's a sort of, part of it is just tradition, right? French tradition, but I think they had their reasons. But the idea is that the Viognier actually helps bind some of the color from the Syrah. So it actually helps stabilize the color, and you get that dark, rich color, long-lasting color. So they say. That's what I was taught at school.
And let's finish with the Rockstar bottle. To my opinion, I mean, we can all have different opinion, but to me,
Mm.
This is the Fleet Road Merlot 2020 vintage. I mean, I fell in love with that wine. 93 points, Carl's Wine Club. I thought it's bold, it's rich, there's a beautiful texture, there's nice concentration. But what stands out in there, it's the freshness.
Right.
And more that I taste Merlot from the Naramata Bench, that's what I get. I get a spark of freshness. Sometimes it comes out as a little bit minty. Sometimes there's different aspect, but the freshness and that just kept everything lifted. The acids are present across. There's tobacco in there. There's licorice. There's all of the characteristics that I'm looking for a Merlot, but it's fresh. But in the meantime, I like my wine feisty. I like my wine sometimes grippy. It's in this young stage because it tells me that it's going to last forever. It's not approachable too early, and I love that. So, yeah.
I remember when that wine was fermenting, and it smelled so good fermenting. I was like, oh, this is going to be a good one, because you can just, just the flavors coming off of it, the aromas while it was fermenting. So, yeah, funny. Merlot is one of those wines that everyone loves to hate, or they used to anyway, and I always thought it was more of a blending wine, but the more I've made it, the more I've come to sort of appreciate it, and sort of just, it's one of my favorite wines to make now, actually, is the Merlot. It's just so expressive and so, juicy, and lovely wine to drink. So,
yeah. And just quick fact here, I was, I think it was earlier this summer, I was at the winery. Graham and I were just shooting shit, and I was telling him that I just tasted the Merlot from Foreshadow. I had 3 different vintage, and I said the 2019 was so freaking good. And Graham started to chuckle. He started to laugh. I'm like, oh, what's so funny? He's like, I think that Lyndsay made that one.
I think it was the 19. Yeah. So the owners there are good friends of ours that we've known for a long time.
They're awesome. They're lovely people.
Yeah, they are. They're great people. And they asked if I would consult for them. And of course they asked me, in June, and I'm not busy at all. And I'm like, oh, sure. Yeah, no problem. I can do that. And then I forget how busy I am during harvest. But anyway, so I kind of helped out with that one. I can't take all the credit for it. Wilbert worked hard on, all of his, making that wine, and he finished that wine. So I can't take all the credit, but
this one was really, really solid. Is the sites are similar between what you work with and what you had to work with that year?
Between our site and his site?
Yeah.
No, they're fairly different. Our Merlot is below the road.
Well, and they are above the road, right?
They're above the road. And ours is somewhat flat. I mean, it's not perfectly flat, but he's got he's on a fairly good slope. So
different sites.
Yeah.
Well, this is my my Enovino wine of the week. This is my big, bold, rich red, the highest score wine on the feature, 93 points. I love that. I think you did a stunning job. Thank you. Lyndsay, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and sharing your passion with us. It's so great to have you on.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Thanks for thinking about us.
Yeah, and thank you. I need more
Merlot too. I need to get.
I need more Merlot. We do have this beautiful baby of a Syrah Magnum of the 2019 here. I love your Syrah, and I'm excited about this Barbera. So you're saying, Carl, that on Friday we get to open this and go live?
I think that Colin told me that not to taste it until the release, and the release was Friday.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, so
I'll keep this on track here. So,
Carl, should we taste it side by side an East Coast Barbera? Like how crazy would that be?
Well, I mean, whatever crazy thing we have to do, we always do it anyway. So, I'm just a wine guy here. You tell me what to taste, and I taste it.
Yeah, well, something to think about. I mean, a lot of people still think we can't ripen any red wines in Canada, and here we are, Barbera, not just in BC but also in Ontario. So it's a pretty interesting time for the Canadian wine industry. Thank you so much, Lyndsay. We kept you so long.
Oh, no worries. Thank you. Yeah,
you're gonna hate us, but we're so glad that you spent the time with us. We learned so much. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me. It was fun. Thanks, you guys.
And I might bug you in the next couple of weeks to go taste some 2023.
Sure. Yeah. Anytime. I'm here.
I love doing that.
All right.
Thank you so much. You say hi to You say hi to Graham for us, and thank you very much. We appreciate you a lot.
All right. Thanks.
Cheers.
Thank you.
That's awesome. I didn't know about the Barbera. Oh.
Yeah, so that was Lyndsay O'Rourke, winemaker, co-owner at Tightrope Winery on the Naramata Bench. Beautiful site, one of the most beautiful sites on the bench. So, and the wines are absolutely spectacular. People who look for small batch, handcrafted wines, I mean, this is textbook. That's what we do in BC. Like this, like these wines are all like what, 150 cases, 175 cases. So yeah, and absolutely like varietal specific. The definition of flavors are fantastic. So the red, what we have this week is mostly the reds on the 2020 vintage, and the whites are mostly on the 2022 vintage. So two great vintage. We have 9 beautiful wines to choose from, including the Rockstar 2020 Merlot, the fantastic 2020 Syrah, and the Semillon, the Viognier, was blended with a bit of Muscat, and that holiday fantastic pairing, Cabernet Franc Rosé. So we have a stunning look at the link. I think Mira is going to put the link of the.
Yeah, I'll drop it in the comments. I also want to say, you know, it's a crazy week in terms of the amount of emails I'm getting with sales here and sales there. And I got to say, BC wine especially is handpicked. It's small batch. There's no way these wines or any BC wines are going on sale more than a teeny little bit. And if I'm buying BC wine, I'm suggesting don't look for the sales. I mean, these are incredible family-owned wineries. We want to support them. Getting 10% off is not the thing. Yes, Carl.
Authenticity. Yeah. That's what we have in every bottle. Definition of flavors, incredible explosion on every, like, it's amazing. And I mean, if you look for a 10% discount, I mean, it's time to shop somewhere else than like, because this is worth of, it's a discovery. Like every bottles are the discovery. But we took upon ourselves to offer the discount this week, Mira, because we're throwing in there the spin to win. And
yeah, so that's what I'm saying is there's no discounts, but we did want to make it kind of festive, kind of fun. So you can spin to win this week until Sunday night. Tightrope has already given us an amazing deal on shipping. So I think it's free shipping for 6 or more bottles in BC, very reduced across the country. But you can win free shipping with our spin to win from Carl's Wine Club, and you can win a gift with purchase as well. So one of the things you can win is this amazing Enovino wine aerator. Many of you have already heard about this because we love it. We don't have the time to decant wines.
No, because we taste 100 wines a week. Like, I mean, I don't have time. I don't have enough decanter. I don't have the patience, and I surely don't have enough dish soap and counter space to clean my darn decanter. So I use the Enovino on every red.
Designed by a fellow winery owner in Niagara, and so it's commercial dishwasher friendly. It's not going to like melt or warp or fall apart, and so it lasts forever, and it filters your wine at the same time. It's got a little aerator, and it literally works. Like we've tasted, it's a great party trick. You taste the wine side by side. And
what's my line, Mira? It decants my wine 1 glass at a time.
Yes. So you get like more aromas, more flavors. It's more round when you use the Enovino. So you can get one of those for free. It's normally around $40. If you spin the wheel to win this week, you can also get a Chardonnay wine jelly, not available anywhere else, signed by Carl and Mira. And it is literally made out of the top 10 Chardonnays from the 54 Chardonnays we cracked open earlier this year. So it's a fun little stocking stuffer for anyone that likes wine. And
speaking about Chardonnay, we're going to have a lot of great Chardonnay open this Friday.
Yeah, so we never got to celebrate my birthday. in August because we were traveling. So I said, Carl, dang it, I want to celebrate my birthday still at some point. So we're gonna have some Chardonnay on Friday to celebrate. We're gonna open some Chardonnay, and we're gonna ship some live lobsters from Nova Scotia.
They should arrive tomorrow.
Yes, to eat with the Chardonnay. So that's a big treat, and we're very excited. So
Some
Friday?
people, let's be clear. Some people pair Chardonnay with lobster. We pair lobster with Chardonnay.
Yeah, and then earlier in the day as a starter, we might go live and taste Barbera. So
Yes,
it's an
absolutely.
interesting day. That's for sure. But yeah, I love that idea of tasting the Mouchedre Barbera from Lake Erie North Shore in Ontario and the Tightrope Barbera that is about to be released from the Naramata Bench in BC. How crazy is that?
Yeah, well, that's what we do, right? We connect every part of the country together, and we don't put wine against each other. We just show how different we are, how similar we can be, and how freaking amazing our wine countries are, our wine regions are. So yeah, I'm blessed to have Lyndsay here with us tonight. It was amazing to chat with her, partnering up this week with Graham and Lyndsay O'Rourke and the small batch Tightrope wine from the bench. It's just... I feel privileged. I've been waiting for a while to be able to feature these wines because I believe that they're a gem, an absolute gem. And that's, I taste so many wines during a year, and when I get to a lineup like that where these flavors, like I mentioned, the definition of flavors are it's such a true pleasure. So yeah, get on it. And we're doing a spin to win this week, Carl's Wine Club, to celebrate the Black Friday sales where everyone else around are giving 10-15% discount. We're staying authentic, but we're offering the spin to win here. So
yeah, free shipping, or you can get another prize. If you're a VIP Unlimited member, I actually sent you a link today so you can get your usual free shipping that a VIP Unlimited members get, plus your choice of one of these complimentary gifts. So, or you can do like some of our VIP members that have ordered multiple times to get multiple gifts. You don't have to do that. If you get a case, I'll send you two. It's all good.
yeah.
So thanks so much, you guys. Thank you, Graham and Lyndsay. And thank you for everyone that stopped by today. So nice.
And also thanks to Colin and Andrea at the tasting room. They have an amazing staff. They're fun to work with. They're on the ball. They know their stuff. So, I mean, all in all, great people, great team, and stunning wines. So, yeah. And okay, before we wrap up, because it's Wednesday, we have hungry children around and all that. I need to talk about what's going up next, because next week we're featuring Black Bank Hill from the 20 Mile Bench in Ontario, brand new winery, just opened. We had a little preview this afternoon, so I feel under the weather. Okay, I have a man cold. That I want my mommy, and I feel like
and meanwhile I am craving French onion soup, which is really weird because I've never really craved French onion soup. I've never made French onion soup. So anyway, I got this crazy idea. I'm gonna make French onion soup. We made it with the gooey cheese, with the croutons. And
it was so good. And I had that idea, and I'm like, wait a minute. I talked with Taylor Emerson, the owner and winemaker at Black Bank Hill, and he sent me a list of all of his wines, and I fell in love with what we do. It's so terroir-oriented. To me, it's my Tightrope of the 20 Mile Bench. To be honest, small producer, super passionate about what he does, spent all his time in the vineyard and all that. Anyway, he sent me a note. He said, Carl, I believe that my Viognier is the rock star, the red rock star. So I've been waiting for it, and I feel like a baby this afternoon. So she made a French onion soup, which was fantastic, and I cracked open the Viognier.
And it went really, really well with it. Gorgeous.
Yeah, holy moly. So anyway, next week we're featuring Black Bank Hill. We're going to have Syrah from the 20 Mile Bench. So from the 2020 vintage, which is the vintage of the century in Ontario. So we have Syrah, Viognier, Cap Franc, Pinot Noir, and a nice list of their entry-level wine is the Runaway, I believe, did they call it? I hope I'm not massacring them. I think it's Runaway. The red, the white, and the rosé, these are blends. So anyway, there you go. Next week, Black Bank Hill are going to be featured across the country. So
there you are.
Here
and
we
on
are.
Friday, I'm just saying, hey, it's fall, French onion soup and Viognier, good thing to have. And you know what else is good to do in the fall? Tune into one of our lives and just sip on wine while we chat wine. It's so much fun. And Friday, we're going to have winemakers on at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern to talk the Ontario 2023 harvest, right?
There you go. We already did our BC harvest report. Now we're doing our Ontario harvest report. We're going to have Fred DiProfrio, winemaker at Bellaterra. We also have confirmed, who else are confirmed? We have 5 people. Oh, we have Andrea Kaiser. Andrea is going to be joining us as well. Possibly Sue-Ann, possibly JP at 13th Street. So we have a bunch of people in the lineup right now, but a few are confirmed. So join us on Wednesday, 4 p.m.
Friday, not
Friday. Sorry. 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern time and it's going to be a panel discussion, a little bit the same format that we've done with the BC Harvest Report.
Yeah, just a good way to know what's coming up in your glass from the 2023 vintage for Ontario. Fun. All right. Well, thank you so much for stopping by. Happy Wine Wednesday. I still have a bunch of wine from earlier I need to get back to. So let's get started on that. Hey,
the tiptoe is just shining right now.
So that was what, the second or third one you poured?
The third one, the third one, yeah, just before the Merlot.
Woohoo, Daryl, you're gonna love it. I think Daryl is getting the Semillon and the Merlot, and this is a brilliant idea, Daryl, because those are rock stars. Those are great wines.
There you go. Thanks for your trust, Daryl. Thanks for the order, and everyone across the country. Thank you very much for tuning in, and cheers to all of you Canadian wine lovers. We'll talk to you on Friday. Cheers.
Cheers.